Kytchen, baby, and you know what it means. G Marie gon' come around. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's start the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Hair Kytchen. And today's guest is going to share some very interesting information with us. I'm so excited to have her here. And to introduce her, I'm going to give you a little snippet about what she's all about. For millions of adults, dyslexia isn't just about letters on a page. It's an everyday journey of resilience, hidden struggle, and often untapped strengths. In this thought provoking episode, we talk with Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore, educator, advocate, and author of Journey of Hope, an everyday guide for adults with dyslexia. Diagnosed later in life, Dr. Johnson-Rockmore turned her own challenges into a mission to help others move beyond shame and discover the creative, big picture thinking dyslexia can bring. Today, we explore the emotional toll dyslexia can carry on into adulthood, small changes that can make a big difference at work and at home, how to flip the script and embrace neurodiversity as a source of strength. Whether you're living with dyslexia, know someone who is, or simply want to understand the power of difference, this conversation will leave you reflecting, inspired, and hopeful. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you said yes. And since your yes, I have started to just think back about people that I know, experiences that I've had, and can say it's a lot of people that are struggling when they're willing to share with you that they're struggling. And you've shared with so many people. What made you say I'm going to make this, or how did this become your life's work? Because you've been at this for a long time.
I have. I have. My desire, I didn't want anybody to go through the pitfalls of the depression, low self-esteem, bouts of suicide, and just feel like my life was spiraling down because of a learning difference. I didn't want anybody to feel like that. And once I was identified and being and diagnosed as having dyslexia, my that God just gave me that mission. Like I wanted to share, my story and also what hope there is because there's hope. It's not the same. I'm dyslexic. I can't learn. I can't comprehend. I can't live a productive life because there are a lot of dyslexics out there, movie stars, actresses, people doing all kinds of things that are doing great things in this world. And if we didn't have that dyslexic mind, there's a lot of things that in this world we probably wouldn't have today. Einstein was dyslexic. Whoopi Goldberg's dyslexic. There's a whole list of people with
Wow.
dyslexia, but are doing some amazing things in this life. And again, I don't want the everyday quote unquote average person with dyslexia feeling like they have no hope. So that became my mission when I found out what I was struggling with.
How old were you when you found that out?
I was out of high school. I struggled in middle
Wow.
school, high school, uh, all throughout life, and actually, my mom is her aunt, so she didn't know. A lot of single parents, or parents in general, if you
Count
don't
on the
know,
system.
you don't know. Yes, they count on the system and thinking that they're properly educating your child or thinking that they know best by doing whatever test that they're saying that they're doing, and then just not really coming up with the right diagnosis. So I was identified, but not identified as being dyslexic. They just said I had a learning difference. And
Mhm.
I was deficient in reading. I was deficient here, deficient there, but not that's telling a person you're sick. but not really diagnosing what the sickness is and what the treatment would be.
What the treatment will be. And when
So
you said that,
so that's where the struggle really began. And I'm internally, I knew rather that I was bright, but I didn't know how to access it. I didn't have the right tools.
hmm in your book, and your the first book you wrote was the guide, correct?
Yes.
And then you recently wrote Flip the Script.
Yes.
Okay, so in your book, um, you said dyslexia doesn't make reading harder. It teaches us to think differently, solve creatively, and see what others miss. Talk to me a little bit about the different type of thinking and what we're missing, those of us who may not be struggling with dyslexia.
So oftentimes, individuals with dyslexia, we kind of see more of a big picture. We see kind of the whole, where those little details. Most people that are avid readers or not struggling with dyslexia, you see those when you read those words, you can picture some of those images, and it comes off the paper and it comes alive. We can't see that. We just see just blanket picture of words that may
Mhm.
become jumbled, that may become convoluted. We may skip over words. We may infer words that are not there. So we're not getting that picture. We're not getting that movie, as they say, as we read. So,
Mhm.
but what we can, what we do see, not so much in our reading, but in other areas, we see more kind of, I guess, more the world as a whole. We can be more creative. We see maybe a blank space and begin to create things in that space that the average person that's more seeing details won't see.
Mhm.
So we can be those great architects, artists, even musicians, because we kind of see the world differently in that
Mhm.
aspect.
Okay, okay. I like that. That's very interesting. That's very creative, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, so you also said healing starts when you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you
Yes.
start asking, what's strong with me? I really like that quote
Hmm.
because it was showing the resilience and seeing the strength in the situation or the diagnosis as opposed to as a hindrance or something to
Yes.
be ashamed of. But I can only
Hmm.
imagine with those struggling with dyslexia who may not be as educated or have had exposure to the resources
Hmm.
that help them to move on. But um, what's strong with me? Talk a little bit about that.
Because a lot of times when, especially dealing with young children and adults, we always see that struggle, and internally we feel that struggle, but not really honing in, or really accessing those strengths, or maybe not even knowing your strengths, trying to really figure out what your strengths and what your gifts are, because God gave us all gifts. Try to
Mhm,
find and tap into those gifts, because those gifts are where you're going to thrive, and where you become alive, where you really become alive in those gifts and those strengths, because you were focusing on the difference in the struggle so much, it makes life hard, and,
mhm,
and it does. But when
mhm,
you begin to really take time to focus on those gifts and find out what those gifts are, you actually begin to thrive in those areas. You begin
mhm,
to, not knowing, in those when we begin to thrive in certain areas, we get more confidence, we get more self-esteem, we get more resilience, because now we know, I, I'm not just dyslexic. I have all these other strengths. I can do this
mhm,
or I can do
mhm,
that. Even I
mhm,
tell people in the book, like, highlight your strengths, even when you're going for job interviews, things like that. Yes, I may need this support over here, but let me tell you what I bring to your company. Let
mhm,
me tell
mhm.
you what gifts and strengths I bring to this company, or what I can do for this company.
Absolutely.
And most of
So,
us are the most hard working people, that you can see in
mhm,
the room, in the classroom, in the job. We work harder because a lot of times we know we have to.
mhm. What was your biggest, oh, okay. Excuse me, my gift is what was your once you got past that point and you started to build the confidence because now, oh, that's what my challenge is. I can learn like this because I learn differently from the average person who picks up a book. What was your biggest gift that you realized and you're like, hindsight, if I had known this, I could do
Mhm.
this. What's your biggest gift?
Now, honestly, it's teaching and speaking. Something
Okay.
that I would have never thought.
Really?
Never thought. No. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Never
Okay.
thought. Never
Okay.
thought. But when I began to get the tools that I needed um, to understand how I learned, I wanted to teach not just that, but whatever that gift was, I wanted to
Mhm.
teach others. I
Wow.
teach at a college now. I teach the intro level to one of the courses there, and a lot
Wow.
of my students that I interact with, I share with them about couple of videos that I did about my struggle. And a lot
Mhm.
of them, because these are adults coming back to school, a lot of them are dealing with the same struggle.
Wow.
So that there is like, God, thank you, because I can give back to them and show them, like, look, you can get through this. It may
Mm.
be hard and challenging, but you can get through this. Because a lot of them are single parents coming back, trying to do better for them and themselves and their
If
children.
you in your class, you said a lot of the adults, if you had 20 students in your class, what percentage of the students would you say, or the adults in your class, realize they might be dealing with some form of dyslexia?
Honestly, dyslexia is 1 out of 5. One out
Wow.
of 5 individuals actually deal with dyslexic, probably undiagnosed. It's the highest learning
Wow.
difference that exists.
Okay.
And again, I often say you don't grow out of it because you're out of school. You're still
I know
dyslexic.
I saw that.
it's
It
just,
doesn't go away. It's not
it
like
just
allergy. Oh, I outgrew my shrimp allergy or my milk allergy. No, it's lifetime from
It's
what you
lifelong.
said.
But a lot
Lifelong.
of people think so. They think if my child got the resources when they were younger and things like that, they no longer have it. No, you you end up,
A
you were
life.
able to get them diagnosed. Thank God you were able to get them identified at an early age, but it still exists. They probably will still have those challenges, not as severe as someone that was undiagnosed and not being able to get the actual tools that they needed, but it still exists.
Hmm. So when you in the speaking in the workforce, because people can request accommodations and things like that. If I'm an adult dealing with dyslexia and I go to my employer and tell them I have dyslexia, what kind of accommodations should I expect? Well, you're shaking your head. No, I'm not getting any. You're
it's
not getting none.
it's so it depends on where you work, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
uh it's unfortunately to be identified, get diagnosed out of school, the cost of it is crazy. It's about maybe 2,000 now, $3,000 or up to get identified.
Does health insurance cover that?
You might have to look into it. Possibly it may not cover all of it though.
I kind of
So
felt
that's
like
why a lot of adults don't even get identified and they struggle. They end up, some of them end up losing their jobs because if you go to HR, they're going to need the proper documentations in order for you to get the minimum support.
exactly,
And
exactly.
and that's the sad part. We are covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but however, you have to have the proper documentations to go to the HR department and ask about getting accommodations.
So okay, so the association, and tell me what it is. There's a organization that helps.
Oh, well, the International Dyslexia Association, it
Yeah.
doesn't help identify individuals, but
Oh,
it does give a lot of resources about dyslexia, about what it is, things like that. We do a large conference each year. Like I said, the headquarters is actually located in Maryland,
hmm.
but they have branches pretty much in all 50 states at this point.
Hmm.
I'm connected with our Philadelphia or our Pennsylvania branch, where
Hmm.
I am the co-host of our adult dyslexia support group each month. We're
Okay.
on Zoom and we meet, and this is a safe place for adults to meet to talk about their dyslexic challenges.
Hmm.
But oftentimes, like I say, that's a hub where if you think, okay, I'm dyslexic, I think I'm dyslexic, I was never identified. But if you go to the International Dyslexia Association page, they will tell you some signs, symptoms, and possibly where your local branch would be or how to get connected with your local branch.
So, does the organization have access to information that if I come as an adult who's struggling, who keeps bumping into challenges in the workforce, do they have the resources or information to share with me about doctors who I might be able to go to get the proper diagnosis?
It all depends on what state you're in, and if that local branch knows anyone in your state that you can connect with to get identified, because you really have to have a person to make that diagnosis or to assess that, who
Mhm,
knows the proper assessment, because they're going to
mhm,
assess you for things like ADHD, your eye, thinking it's a vision problem, all those things, which is not. So you have
mhm.
to single out what is not and then find out what it is. So that person has to be really have that the proper license to diagnose you as being dyslexic. So, and
And that
again,
sounds like, mhm,
they could be someone, they could have connections there at that branch. I was blessed when I was identified for our local branch here in the Pennsylvania area. The person that I called and I was able to get, because they have something called a screening too. You can, which is at a lower cost. You can get something called a screening. You can say, okay, maybe I can get a screening done. And like I say, the screening is not as much as the complete evaluation,
mhm.
and also going back to see if the job would take a screening instead of the evaluation. But most of them do want that complete psychological evaluation in order for
Mhm.
you to get accommodations, but you can always find out and ask.
Okay, okay. I mean, dyslexia is not new. So
No.
to hear that it's that hard for, and I'm sure when you said after you graduate from high school, so my documentation that I had that helped me through high school does not carry on into
It does.
adulthood.
No, it
And I
doesn't.
think that, I mean, just listening, it should, because I think about the children who age out of adoption, of foster
Hmm.
care, and then
Hmm.
they go on into independent living because they know you're going to need some resources and some help. And
Hmm.
therefore, the person who's coming out of high school, I would see that or think that they would be able to transition
Hmm.
into the workforce with that same support and then be still in the system some kind of way that would allow that assessment to be made with them as an adult 18 and over, that they carry with them like we have to carry our driver's license. This would be something that on the job shows that I have the proper documentation to state that I have
Hmm.
this, and you didn't say disability, you said this
Learning difference, but
different.
they have to categorize it as a disability in order to get any accommodations.
Oh, wow.
Because if it's
Okay,
not
so
a under the DMV as a disability,
mhm.
why would you need accommodations?
Wow. Okay. So I would take it. I just wanted to make sure I was being politically correct and not
No.
insensitive to the
Mm-mm.
dyslexic population. But
No.
if I need that, then so be it. Give me what I need so that I can be successful as an adult, because I can't imagine, as hard as it is for those who aren't walking around or aren't challenged with some kind of learning difference,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine the struggle because the workforce is just brutal.
It is. It is definitely,
Wow.
and it's certain. Like I said, it all depends on where you work. Corporate America is tough.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
medical field is tough for
Private
individuals.
industry is tough.
Hmm.
It's very
Hmm.
cutthroat. Because you
Yeah,
you that brings me to your next quote. We kind of have talked about accommodations aren't about lowering the bar. They're about clearing the path so our true
absolutely.
strengths can shine. And that's exactly what
Hmm.
I'm thinking
Hmm.
when what we're talking about. It's like, how can I be successful if the odds are stacked that far against me?
Absolutely.
And to get the right assessment
Hmm.
is first off, I need to have a job. And if I'm not employed or gainfully employed, how am I going to pay that kind of money for
How
a
exactly?
test?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I can only imagine
I
that
can tell you, I personally experienced that. I work at a place, a higher institution, and I got my degree from this place. And when I asked for accommodations as an employee, been working there for years, they said that I needed an updated evaluation. And I
so I gotta
working, I can't afford what you pay me. I cannot afford an updated evaluation. So
yeah,
what
that
we do is workarounds. We try to find other alternatives to help us out.
wow. Is there like a because you said you do monthly meetings
Hmm.
online on for
On Zoom.
adults.
Mhm.
Hmm. So that's exactly so. Do you guys have a Facebook? If I'm an adult living and dealing with dyslexia, how do I join your group? Because I need to be able to call you and say, Dr. Johnson-Rockmore, they just gave me this assignment at work and I am struggling. Can you suggest or tell me this is what I have to do? This is my deadline. I'm starting to get anxious. I'm nervous.
Yeah,
What do I do? Is there
yeah.
somewhere where I would be able to go and reach
The
out and
the adult support group is still under the International Dyslexia Association. So, but we're just one of the branches, and probably I think the only branch that does the adult support group. So, actually, if they go to the International Dyslexia Association, or some people have Googled dyslexic support groups, in our branch normally just pops up because we're the only one right now doing this the adult support group via on Zoom.
oh,
So
so I
it,
can be in Maryland and come to your group?
oh yeah,
The lack of accommodations is very unfortunate. I can't imagine for the individuals who are having to deal with that. But if you are someone who wants to join the group, and this is excellent because if it's on Zoom, I can be in Timbuktu and I
yep.
can join the group. And then once I join the group, does it give me that place where I can, like you said, it's a safe space?
Mhm.
Now I have people I'm meeting that
Yes,
I don't feel alone anymore.
exactly.
I'm, I'm
That
me-
was desire. Hmm.
yeah, I'm meeting people who might be in the same industry, who
Hmm.
might be a million miles away, but
Hmm.
they're able to be a resource for me
Yes.
and help me with some of the things I might be struggling with, especially at work.
We have a med student in our group that joins our group periodically now. He talks about the struggles that he's having in med school. And we're there to encourage each other, to strengthen, and just again, it's a safe place to talk, because a lot of times your family members may not understand if you're not, because dyslexia is hereditary. So if you had a family member with dyslexia, it came down that line somewhere, but grandmom, great grandmom, grandpop, they may be the ones that were dyslexic, but it was never identified then. So they may not been able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes in our families, we're not able to really talk about it because there's no one else that understands that struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is the safe place to come to
Mm-hmm.
kind of really talk about the your dyslexic challenges. Sometimes we have those dyslexic days or whatever. You just need someone to talk to that understands that struggle. And each
Mm-hmm.
dyslexic is different. None of us are the same, but we kind of, those hurdles and those challenges in life, we can help and support and encourage one another. We had
Mm-hmm.
people joining from California, we had some people from a couple people join from overseas. So this, because there's nowhere else that they feel like they belong.
Wow. And what better person to have than you, because you also said a single question for self reflection. What if my brain's difference is my greatest asset? So, talk about the asset that you found in your own situation when you got diagnosed.
The greatest asset that I was able to find when I was again identified, I said a light went on, because all those years I was told I was dumb, I was told I was slow, I was told I was stupid, never being able to mount to anything. In fact, it was a high school teacher told the whole class we couldn't go to college because we just didn't have the academic abilities. So all of that negative, those
I hope you
negative
said
words.
hello to him. I hope you've gone back and said hello to him or her and said, hey, if you have any students, send them to me. I'll be glad to help them and help them with their confidence and everything because you were definitely a naysayer.
Yes,
Wow, an
yes.
educator.
Oh, it's a lot of educators out there thinking. I've heard from some educators that dyslexia doesn't exist.
Oh,
It's not real. Now we
what?
have, oh yeah, oh yeah. I've heard that from educators, from people who were educating young people in high school and middle school, that they felt like it wasn't real. It wasn't anything that really exists, that the students just slow, that the students just lazy. Those are things, those are words that we hear often growing up.
Mm.
Because it comes out one day, if it is, we got it, we're fine, we're reading well, and then the next day we just, I heard someone say, I can't even read the word the or write the word the. It That's just how our brain is wired. So
That
it seems like we're not trying, but we are working 10 times as hard as the average person, but it's just the way our brain is
Wow, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't have a little bit of dyslexia because when you just said that, I said, gosh, I remember sitting at the typewriter when I was in high school and I could not spell the word if. I was like, how do you spell if?
wired.
I'm literally at the typewriter and I said, and that's happened to me at different points in my life where
Hmm.
the simplest of, you're like, how do you spell of? You're like, oh my gosh, how do
Hmm.
I spell? And you're just complete brain like
Yep.
in a
Hmm.
fog. And it's
Hmm.
real serious because
Yes.
you gotta ask somebody, excuse me, can you tell me how I spell if? Or can you tell
Hmm.
me how I spell of? And just certain things. And then you made me think back to high school with a situation where you know how the teacher calls on you, you have to read out loud, and you mentioned
Oh.
this.
Hmm.
And there was another student in the classroom, and I just was like, he got
Yeah.
stuck on the word the. He was
Hmm.
he was reading the sentence. We were in science, and this is seventh grade, and I'll never forget it because I was like, "The my God!" And I'm sitting across the room. The teacher put me out of the classroom for my outburst, and now I'm thinking back after looking at everything you've written and talking to you. I'm like, I wonder if he
Yeah.
had
Possible.
dyslexia, and you have me, the student who anxious in a hurry. Come on, let's go being a jerk
Yeah.
on the other side of the classroom, not knowing I might be shattering someone's world. So
Right.
if he happens to be watching, I'd just like to say I'm sorry if that was your case because you never know how you might be
Mm.
affecting
Yeah.
someone or
Hmm.
what someone's dealing with. So I feel
Yes.
really bad when I read that when you were something that you had written about, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if that was what
Yes.
happened. And
That
I just
pop reading is not, it's not good. Not good for us whatsoever. That
wow.
creates so much anxiety, so much depression. A lot of times it's avert students, you see the student avert being called on, or when you see the teacher saying, okay, one, two, one, you read it, you like look like, okay, when is my turn? Okay, I'm going to get sick real quick.
Oh.
They will start coughing, start, "Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, I
Oh.
feel a stomach ache, all kinds of things to avert
Wow.
being called on.
Wow.
And they will
Wow. I've
disappear.
managed some people who have had I don't know if they've had dyslexia. They didn't share. And as a manager, you can't ask, only deal with
Hmm.
responses because ADA and things like that. You can't ask people about their disabilities. But she said to me, and I would have never known, she had extreme anxiety. And we
Mm,
were in staff meeting, and I said, how come you never come to the staff meeting? She said, because I don't want you to call on me.
mm,
I was like, she said, I'll start coming as long as you promise not to call on me. I said, I just want you there for the information. You feel free to ask me any questions you want. You can be upset about something I'm saying we have to do. And she was like, I am going to melt right here in my chair if you call my
mm,
name. I was
mm,
like, I'm not going to call your name. And she started coming to the meetings, but she was like, I have extreme anxiety and I cannot. The fear of you even thinking you're going to call on me.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
wow.
Yeah.
But she got to the meetings and saw that it was positive, and then
Mm-hmm.
she came in at her own
Yes.
recognizance, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was just glad. I was just happy to have her there. So,
Yeah.
but not
And some dyslexic, in dyslexic individuals, we have average to above average intelligence. So we're very intelligent.
and that's
If
why I would have
we
never guessed.
if we are prepared, if we read, okay, telling your student, okay, can you read such and such tomorrow in our class at such and such time? It gives them time to prepare for it,
Mhm.
gives them time to rehearse it, hopefully at
Mhm.
home and with family members that they're comfortable with. Then
Mhm.
they're prepared to come in and read that section that they prepare for.
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
pop reading, no, they're going to have
Got
anxiety. They're going to have all types of stuff that it's a physiological response that
it.
happens
Mhm.
when you call on that
Mhm.
person to pop read. That is the
Mhm.
most heart-wrenching thing that you can do for a dyslexic student.
Mhm. So, and you call it pop reading, like where the teacher just says, "Can somebody
Popcorn.
read the screen?"
Yes.
And I'm
Popcorn.
like, "Oh, me," and they
Yes.
never call on me.
Mm.
I wanted to read it, like, no, we're gonna choose someone else. You've already
Mhm.
been reading. Okay. I mean, I'm bored. I'm ready to be going down the road. So
Right.
yeah, and they see that. No, we're gonna call on somebody else.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. I just learned something new. Boy, you learn something new every day. Okay. Um, so you talk about reading is slow and effortful.
Yes.
Even when they eventually read accurately,
Oh yeah.
it may always take extra time. Do you feel
Yes.
like you've been given the amount of time as the student or as the adult to be able to read something, or how much time should one, is there a, and this is, I'm going to ask the question and I'm going to take it back, that should be allotted to someone who might need additional time? Is it, how like when you take a test, they're like, okay,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can have additional time
Mhm.
for this, but that's not always.
Yeah. I have been personally blessed to be in places of higher education where, because I did have the documentations at the time when I was in undergrad and grad school, where
Mm-hmm.
I received the accommodations. And my time was pretty much for tests, quizzes was extra time plus.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot
Mm.
of my teachers were accommodating. I didn't have,
Wow.
but they knew I was a hardworking student too.
Mm-hmm. You
Again,
weren't, you weren't trying to get over or flake. They knew you were hard working, so
and
they
most
said sure.
dyslexic students aren't. They're not trying to get over it. I always equated to a person with a wheelchair. You would not tell them to get up and walk up the steps
No,
or walk in
run.
the building.
I need you to run up the steps. No, we wouldn't do that. We'd be like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me get out of your way. Did you need any help? And they don't want your help anyway. So it's like, no, my chair walks up the steps. Can you just move, please?
So a person with dyslexia, our accommodations would be the epitome of that wheelchair. Would be epitome of that
Okay.
walker.
So
It's just
similar
it's
to,
just giving me the same playing field as my counterparts that can walk
mm-hmm,
effortlessly.
mm-hmm,
That's it.
mm-hmm. Okay. Um, in the you talked about um spelling can remain inconsistent even into adulthood.
Mhm.
So what can an adult do? Like how would I overcome that? How could I, what do I need to do to be a better speller with my difference?
Unfortunately, left we don't overcome it. we
Oh,
we just we just
okay.
find ways.
Okay.
There's programs actually.
Okay.
There's a main approach called the Orton Gillingham approach. It's a multi-sensory method of teaching, writing, reading, and spelling. Most
Okay.
students with dyslexia need some type of Orton Gillingham approach. There's a couple of them out there. Myself, I went through something called Wilson. and she's her name is Barbara Wilson, who she and her husband created this program called the Wilson Learning Reading Program. That's just one of the Orton Gillingham methods that are used. There's plenty of them out here.
Okay.
Even if you're a parent and they say, okay, this is what they're going to give your child, and you know your child is dyslexic or they were identified as being dyslexic, make sure that program is Orton Gillingham based. So
Mhm.
whatever program that is, making sure it's Orton Gillingham based. Orton Gillingham brings in all the senses that you possibly can. Your hearing, your seeing. It manipulates letters, or sometimes one program use sand, they use mirrors, but that's the tactile piece. So that's how
Mhm.
you're using with your
Mhm.
tactile piece. So
Mhm.
it's bringing on all those senses to learn how to spell,
Mhm.
how to read,
Mhm.
those things that we never got as dyslexic. We never really got those tools down. When
Mhm.
people with not this without dyslexic, they picked it up. They picked up the reading pattern. They were fine. We
Mhm.
never did. So we needed to go back and get the basics. So we don't always hear the sounds of letters properly.
Mhm.
Here they can decode the words properly. So we actually need to really get that foundation.
Mhm.
Some
Mhm.
adults, it's harder for them because it number one, it takes a lot longer to go through a program like that, and number two, the financial piece that comes along with that. It's not free.
Mm.
Most of
Right.
those tutors, all those tutors are trained, and they had to pay to get the training. So now
Mhm.
that costs, they have to, unfortunately,
Mhm.
it depends on what the tutor is going to cost. So
So when you Mhm.
that's another piece to it. Some adults just don't aren't able to do that. So
Mhm.
that's when we maybe get into things like assistive technology now. That may be a resource or a help, a big help to us now is assistive technology.
So is that like AI platforms like Chat GPT and things
Yep,
like that?
it could be that.
Wow.
Your phone is a
Yes.
huge one.
Yes.
I use a blank text all the time.
Yes.
Just
I can
texting
imagine.
myself, I can speak into it. It spells out the word that I need when I'm typing.
Outstanding. So when you just talked about, you said we don't read the way everyone else does. So when you're in your formative years, in your early grades, and you get sight words, how
Mm.
if I have dyslexia, you said if I have dyslexia and I'm 4 years old, 5 years old, trying to learn my sight words,
Mhm.
how is that?
It's it has to be that complete repetition, and a lot of times we don't always pick that up because the sight words don't follow the pattern.
Got you. And then you know what? While you're talking, I'm thinking about when I was running my school because I used to own a beauty school,
Hmm.
and I've often said when because you have students who come to cosmetology who are very creative, but they don't
Hmm.
always have the left
Exactly.
brain of the
Exactly.
analytical part down, and
Hmm.
you see it when you're testing. They're visually, they can emulate. You show them how to part
Hmm.
hair or cut hair
Hmm.
or curl.
Hmm.
They watch your movements and your motions, and they
Yep.
can emulate it as
Yes.
if and master it.
Yep.
But I've often said, and but when they go to state board, that 100 question test
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
only have 2 hours. So that means you get a minute and 20 seconds or 30
Hmm.
seconds per
Hmm.
test question to
Hmm.
answer, and
Hmm.
you're not successful. I've often said that test needs to have a visual component where
Yes.
the four ABCD answers, especially, and the one that's coming to my mind is the bacteria. One is
Hmm.
spirilla, one is straight, and the other one is cocci or
Hmm.
cocci, and it's
Hmm.
circular. If they could look at the picture, they could
Hmm.
tell you exactly which one it is
Hmm.
that goes along with the answer. I feel
Yep.
like those 100 questions need to be accompanied by some visual because everybody
Absolutely.
is learns differently, and these students tended to be very visual learners, even
Yes.
if they hadn't been diagnosed as visual learners.
Exactly. Hmm.
From I ran my school for 10 years, I saw a lot of different, and then the curriculum provider started providing the curriculum with a hearing component. So you had the audio where it
Hmm.
would read the flip cards to
Hmm.
you, And I just was like, so is that similar to someone who might be needing some assistance who has dyslexia?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the sight words, if I was reading the sight words to you, you might be able to process it because you
Exactly.
hear it.
Hear it.
But
Exactly.
nobody
Exactly.
usually reads your sight words. They tell you one time and you on your own.
Exactly. Exactly.
You like, my
Exactly.
God, how do I spell this? Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. You also talked about self-esteem issues and depression and thoughts of suicide, which my heart goes out to you because as a young person just you know getting through life, and then to have this other layer that you feel the weight of it but no one can see it,
Yes.
constantly being told to try harder,
Mhm.
can lead to shame, anxiety, and belief that you're stupid. So how did you and what's if there's one thing you could tell someone who is maybe living with dyslexia, doesn't know that they have, what their difference is, to help them with their self-esteem, what would the one thing be that you would tell them?
You're not broken. You
All
are
right.
not broken.
I like that.
Um, that's sometimes how you feel, and that's outwardly and inwardly because you're told maybe all these things that you're not this, you're not that, you struggle here, reading and writing and all those type of things, and making, and even internally you start to internalize those things, but you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. We don't need to be fixed. This is just the way God created and our way our brain is wired. That is it. We think and we process this world differently. Because I always say dyslexia does not, it's not just an academic issue. It affects everything in your world. How you interact with the world, how you interact with others, all those type of things. It affects everything that you do in life.
Yeah, I just wow. And I'm sure the viewers and the people who aren't familiar with dyslexia have got to be as amazed as like I am. I'm like over the falls without a barrel. Just when you talked about the accommodations and what it takes, most people would just be like, forget about it. I'm just going to go over here where it's all that's not required. Because you
Exactly.
said you were actually a cleaning person or worked in housekeeping at the
I
public
did.
school system, and you felt like a fish out of water. You were like, I know I can do this. Is
Yes.
not it for me. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, because we definitely,
Exactly.
I miss to
Exactly.
clean the people when they don't come. It's like, hold on. This,
Exactly.
thank you for coming. The window
Exactly.
looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
5,000 fingerprints have been
Mm-hmm.
removed. The floor, the bathroom is so fresh. I mean, don't get me wrong.
No,
I
no.
value the people who bring.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly, but you
Absolutely.
knew, and then you talked about the workplace barriers and so when you go to HR and you said the teachers, oh wow, when you talked about some of the educators who weren't helpful, who said this wasn't real, and
Oh yeah.
I just you threw me over the falls without a barrel when you said that too, because I was like, how can you be in education
Mm-hmm.
and say that it's not real or it's fake?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of educator are you?
Yeah.
You're a check earner. You're not an educator. Tell the
Yeah.
truth. You're not here
Mm-hmm.
to help anybody. You're
Mm-hmm.
here to get your check and go home, which is fine. Go on,
Mm-hmm.
go pick a different
Profession.
career, yeah,
That's right.
profession, because
Mm-hmm.
in education, you should have a helping heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But you know that myth there. Number one, the educator. I often tell my people, clients, I tell them that the ones that come to me through Vessels of Hope, I have to say sometimes you have to educate the educator, because if they don't know about dyslexia, you have now understood your your dyslexia. You have to probably educate them about it, because oftentimes, sometimes they don't know. And some
mhm.
educators are open to, oh my, how can I help you? I don't
Mm,
understand. And I love that educators, they're still in it for the passion of helping students. But some
mhm.
of them are some that say, this is not realistic. They actually now have MRI images
Mm-hmm.
of a dyslexic brain and a non-dyslexic brain. You can see the pattern of the difference between a person with dyslexia and a person that's without dyslexia. And you can see
Mm-hmm.
the brain activity that lights up in a person that's not dyslexic. And when they read, there's so much brain activity going on. And a person that
Mm.
is dyslexic is so minimal. The effort physically is challenging. That's why most of our students come home from school, from work, exhausted, because
Exhausted.
we're using physically more of that energy, and it's a little bit of brain activity that's going on because it takes so much energy for us to do reading, to do that email, to do that essay, and all those type of things.
Wow. So, because you said you didn't get your actual diagnosis until after high school, which made me think about, how you have like that aha moment, or you go, oh my gosh, that's what that was.
Hmm.
So, what was the moment you realized your reading struggles weren't laziness, but it was something totally neurological difference?
Hmm.
When do you remember when that happened, and how did that feel, and what were you thinking to yourself?
Ironically, I saw a really old episode of The Cosby Show,
Uh-oh.
and it talked about, and later we found out that Ennis Cosby, uh, which was Bill Cosby's real son, was dyslexic. But Theo, God rest his soul, he was the one that played Ennis or Bill's son as
Mm-hmm.
being dyslexic. And they talked about the signs and symptoms of dyslexia and all this time. And I'm listening, I'm looking, I'm like, what? A light went on for me. Like, I think that's me. And
Wow.
that's where my own journey began. And I called IDA, which is internet. I did some research, started looking online, and I found IDA. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I was able to get connected with our local branch. And I was able to get a screening first because that's what I could afford. And then later on, I was encouraged to, I called one of the tutors, like I connected with the tutor, Orton Gillingham based tutor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to get, and I wasn't even thinking about college at the time. I just wanted to learn how to read.
Got you. Wow. Not so see how television can definitely impact our lives in a positive way.
Mhm.
Because I know we used to get accused growing up of watching the idiot box, and you just want to sit there in front of that TV, and your brain is going to be, when you got something so powerful from one episode,
Yeah.
that it is a indelible mark in your life right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow. Um, how did uncovering your dyslexia shape your confidence during your educational journey? Because you not only have an undergraduate, but you have a graduate degree, and then you have a doctorate. So that's I mean, I know if I was listening to you or talking to you and I was struggling with dyslexia or a learning difference, I would aspire to know you and try to find out how can I do that.
Hmm. Uh, a lot of perseverance, a lot of hard work, grit, and a lot of support. I tell
Mhm.
anybody, you don't make it in this life successfully doing anything without help.
Mhm.
Without help. So I
Yeah.
was able to tap the tutor that I talked about. She's still in my life today. She's like 90 years old now. This woman has got me through all of my degrees.
Wow.
Other support systems, friends, um, family members. Like I would just lean on, like, could you just read over this essay for me before I submit it? Could you kind of look over this? And I've had people, friends of mine, actually tutor me through courses and things like that.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
that I always say, tap into your allies. Find out who
mhm,
your allies are, your friends, your family members that can help you through this journey. Um,
mhm,
be open, network. You know,
mhm,
you don't your network, we often say, is our net worth. You never know
mhm,
who you can connect with that can
mhm,
support you and help you through this journey.
mhm,
Because number one, we as dyslexics, we need that. Just like I say, that person with that wheelchair needs that wheelchair to get through life. We need that support system to get us through this life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, my clients come, they're like, well, I don't want to feel like I have to get help all the time. I need this support. I want to be able to be, confident. I'm like, that doesn't take away your lack of confidence.
Yeah.
That's just saying that this is how you
I
function
learned.
in life. You need
Mm-hmm.
that support. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your book focuses on adults.
Mhm.
What unique talents do dyslexic adults often bring to the table that society overlooks?
Mm. One thing is their creativity, the
Mhm.
ability. People say think outside the box. I think they create their own box.
Mm.
Um, and oftentimes that gift and that skill can be so valuable to companies, because a lot of times people that are more analytical, kind of more that straight way of thinking, they don't always see the huge creativity that a person with dyslexia can bring.
Mhm. Wow. Um, Mindset shifts. Which mindset adjustments helped you flip the script from disadvantage to advantage?
Realizing that I wasn't broken, that I was
Mm.
really created. God created my brain this way. And sometimes I do get those days where I feel as though if I didn't have this, I would probably be better off in life. But, my husband even says, he like, do you think you would probably be the person that you are if you didn't have it? I'm like, I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know. But this is what, the Lord has given me. And my desire is to help other people who are struggling with it.
Mhm.
But it's really, I think, just not just helping others unlock their own potential.
Mhm. And that's what your book does, which brings me to my next question. You chose practical tips and blueprints over academic discourse for Journey of Hope.
Mhm.
And tell me a little bit about what made you go in that direction.
Because this was just, it wasn't for the educator, it wasn't for our psychologists, because I see those lovely people all the time at these conferences. It wasn't for them. It's the everyday guide for the individual, undiagnosed or diagnosed, dealing with this or living with dyslexia. So it's not a cover to cover book that you have to read. It's just whatever I need for a particular situation for that particular day. If I'm
Mhm.
playing board games with my family and friends, what tips and tools could I take out of this book that I can apply it to this situation? If I need
Mhm.
to write a my if I need to go for a job interview, what tips and tools that I can take out this book to help me with my interviewing? If I'm writing a going to buy a house,
Mhm.
what tools that I need, or what should I kind of think about? Uh, all the paperwork that's involved in doing something like that.
Mhm.
I need to take someone with me that can help me through this process. Let me not go in it alone. So those type of
Mhm.
just average things.
Wow. You just mentioned during an interview. I Interviews cause anxiety for the average adult. Like we're like, oh
Absolutely.
God, I gotta go in this interview. I can't imagine what
Hmm.
someone who might have dyslexia as a difference when
Yeah.
you go into the interview and the person across from you can't ask you any of those kind of questions, even if
Hmm.
they know
Yeah.
or can sense. You absolutely can't do that because I'm usually the interviewer.
Hmm.
And how would one get through that?
I give tools
Preparation.
about,
What does
yeah,
that take?
exactly. It's going to take a lot more than the average person. I often say, um, do some practice things with a family member or friend that you're comfortable with before you're going
Mhm.
in. This is things that anyone can use.
Mhm.
Um, Now most of your your applications are online, so you can be a little bit better prepared if you're not doing an application right on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But if they prompt you and ask for a writing sample, that right there is something that is extremely fearful for a person with dyslexia. If you're asking for a prompt writing sample right there, depending on what job interview you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that can be extremely challenging. No, do some research and finding out about the company, what their policies are for individuals with learning differences or with disabilities in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So those things like that may be helpful when you're applying for a job.
I know how much research I do. I go to YouTube. I go, like you said, to the
Mm-hmm.
company website. I go to interviews for this particular company because it's all on YouTube. You will find it. I'm like, I just need to know what to expect and how do I get to that dollar that I need to. How do I ask for that physical greenback? What is the conversation? Because in the last interview, I just to have something sidebar. The woman was ready to get off the phone with me. She was like, "Did they talk to you about pay?" I was like, "Hold on, I still have questions." I said, "I've never had an interview where they ready here. We just gonna give you the job. Can you not ask us any more questions? Because I'm too prepared." So bless it for the people who may have to do that much beforehand to try to get to the outcome they're looking for.
And sadly to say, a lot of individuals with dyslexia, or some, not a lot, but some normally go for lower paying jobs that's below their skill level because they believe like, I'm not going to shoot for this because I'm going to, because we're always trying to not be discovered. So we're constantly living under a mask. I don't want to be exposed that I have dyslexic, or that I'm living with this challenge, or it's going to come out if I take this higher paying job because I'm going to have to do more writing skills or more reading or those type of things. So I'll take the lower paying job, and
kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of us get stuck.
It's reminding me of clients who would come to the counter, and these are just customers, and they would say, "I don't have my glasses on. Can you read that for me?"
There you go. That's a cue.
And I thought sometimes they just couldn't read. I said, it's a lot of adults in African American community who cannot read. Okay. And then had a young man come one time to get his hair done, and we fill out the client card, and I said, he was like, "Well, can you just fill it out for me, so you could do it real quick for me?" And he also couldn't count his change. I was like, "Oh wow." So I bumped into them in customer service in my career, because I'm in the beauty business, and you meet all kinds of people, and you kind of I've had a chance to say, "Oh, maybe she couldn't read, or she couldn't count." When people hand me their money and they open their hand and it's all the change, and you tell them what the bill is, and they just trust that you're going to take what you're supposed to and give them back. I've been like, "Oh wow, I see that too often." So it makes me go,
yes. And it's a difference. So like you say, there's some in the African American community that are illiterate, and then there's some that may be dyslexic. So if they're illiterate, if they get the tools that the average student received to read, they're fine. But if a person has gotten those tools and they're still struggling significantly, they're probably falling in the category of being dyslexic. And the other thing you were talking about was the not being able to count. So there's another disability called dyscalculia, where that person has a struggle with math and math calculations.
Wow.
And a lot of times these differences or disabilities are there's a comorbidity there where they may overlap, where you could have be dyslexic and have dyscalculia. I struggle with math as well.
Wow.
So that could be an overlap, or a person with dyslexia and ADHD often sometimes overlaps or can overlap. So they're treating do they have dyslexia, or is it ADHD where they can't they can't comprehend, or I'm sorry, that they're just,
Can't settle down to
they just can't
focus.
set. Yeah, exactly. So you
Hmm.
have to kind of wean out, or is it both?
Hmm. Wow. There's so much going on. And with all this internet, that's enough in itself. And then put the internet distraction on top of it. Children have so much to deal with.
They do. They do.
So, um, Genesis of the mission. What inspired Vessels of Hope? And how does it specifically serve underserved dyslexic communities?
Vessels of Hope was really birthed out of my own struggle dealing with being dyslexic. I often, in those years when I was struggling, not being identified, I felt like I was a broken vessel. And
Okay.
when I was identified as being dyslexic and I was able to get connected with the right tutor and getting to the right program, and then ultimately getting into college, I felt like that was being mended. And I felt like the proper things that I've always lacked was being poured into me, where that vessel began to mend and be whole. So that's where Vessels of Hope was birthed out of. And how we serve underprivileged communities. I'll go to a church, to a community center, colleges, libraries, just free informational events about dyslexia. I show various videos that I was in. I was actually in an HBO documentary called Journey of Hope into Dyslexia. It was myself and a lot of other people. We were in this HBO documentary that was released a couple of years back when I was actually in college at the time, and I would go around and show that HBO documentary, and we would have Q&A, just again open to the public, anybody, and we would just share. A lot of our constituents were in underprivileged communities where they knew that their child or they were struggling, and they came to a workshop like this and realized that they were dyslexic.
Wow. So it sounds like you've touched a lot of people and you're going to keep on touching people in terms of helping individuals with dyslexia. Does it start with children, or is your target for Vessels of Hope specifically for adults, or is it open to anyone?
It's open to anyone, because a lot of times what happens is people come to get information for their children, but like I say, dyslexia is hereditary. Then the actual parent realized, wait a minute, I struggle with this too, and I'm seeing it in my child, and not, I think this is what I have. So we often find out when they're trying to get resources for their child, some of the parents begin to identify with that same struggle, trying to get help for their child.
Wow. That's really powerful in itself. I can't imagine, or I can only imagine how you must feel if you see your child struggling and then you see and know some of the things that you're seeing with your child, that hey, this is something I was dealing with, but because you have firsthand experience, and it was, as you say we said in the beginning, silent,
Mhm.
undiagnosed, people don't know, and then when they start to reach out for resources for their child, they now get the resources that they never had.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
Vessels of Hope is like, it sounds like it's touching generations of people who may or have struggled with dyslexia, because you said it was hereditary.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Um, as a professor, how have you adapted your teaching for dyslexic learners in your classrooms?
So we were in person at one point, of course, prior to COVID, but now all of my classes are virtual.
Mhm.
But even when we were in person, I would try to diversify what was being taught in multiple ways. I would show videos. I would give my students opportunity to write, but
Mhm.
also to speak. A lot of conversation,
Okay.
because I know a lot of times students can verbalize more than they can write, and they would understand, making sure they understood and knowing that they understood the concepts of what was being taught. So now virtually, I'll try to still show videos, bringing more information, not just in the textbook, really try to break it down where they can understand it, give them an opportunity to also still to express themselves verbally via Zoom.
Okay. So um what are or what barriers still exist for dyslexic students, and what can institutions of higher education do better for those students?
Um, just some higher institutions of higher learning are really accommodating to students.
Okay.
And I always give my students kind of a blueprint. Most of all, if you know you're coming in with a learning difference, after you fill out that application, go to that disabilities office or connect with the disability service person. Find out what type of accommodations or what type of support that's offered at that university or that school. A lot of people, some people say, oh, college is not for me. Maybe you haven't found the right college because every
Mm-hmm.
college doesn't fit everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Some students, unfortunately, with a learning difference, we need to go to smaller institutions because you have more of that individualized attention there, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
support that we need. And you can be very successful in places like that. I was.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my colleges were private schools, but that's where I need to go because they were smaller schools. No, I couldn't afford go there, but it was by the grace of God I was there, and I was able to be successful because I was
Mm-hmm.
able to get the help I needed. And you become more of an individualized student rather than just a number in a mass
Mm-hmm.
lecture hall.
Mm-hmm.
So finding the right school, finding out what supports offered there, what resources are offered there as a student with a learning difference, and then going in there and just, really finding out what you could do or what could be offered there as a support for you. So in some institutions of higher learning, just really be open to the actual individual student and then not looking at them as a number.
What policy or cultural shifts are you most hopeful about in terms of IDA of Pennsylvania and your group? What's your big picture goal there?
Truthfully, there have been some positive movement in getting dyslexia identified in policies, especially where it comes to where at one point, especially kind of identifying children in schools, the word dyslexia was not able to even be printed in a student's diagnosis. Those things are shifting in a more positive area because of various laws, and there's a lot of grassroots parent groups, or a couple of grassroots parent groups have really started to really make a lot of gains in getting that shift. And IDA is actually working on now getting some colleges where they're getting IDA approved to teach, to be able to really teach these methods or be certified to teach, having teachers coming out now trained in the method of reading, or the science of reading was what we call it. So there's actually being some colleges now getting teachers trained in the science of reading, where now they're going into the classrooms. These teachers are going to classes more equipped than the teachers were before. Because a lot of times I would say, we can't always blame the teachers, because again, if you're a doctor and you weren't given the right tools to operate on someone's brain,
Yeah.
but you were sent into that surgery, how can you be equipped to really do the right procedure on that particular patient or that particular individual? Again, with the teacher, if they weren't given the right tools, you
Mhm.
sending them to a classroom with over 30 some students, all types of learning differences, how are they going to be equipped to teach these students with the tools that they need if they were never equipped to teach them in the first place?
Right. And that's so true, because when doctors, and I talk to my doctor all the time, and when I start talking to her about certain things with nutrition, she said, I did about 4 hours of nutrition. I don't know anything. We aren't taught how to treat. We are taught how to treat the symptoms and prescribe
Exactly.
medication. We do not
Exactly.
fix the problem. So when
Exactly.
you talking to them about what am I eating, what's it doing, the honest doctors will tell you I don't have any idea. I
Nah,
was
they
like,
don't.
how can you
They
prescribe me
don't.
medication if you don't know what
Exactly.
it's doing actually? You
And
treat the
that's
symptom
very
that
true.
this medication will cause by this
Hmm.
medication. So I'm
Exactly.
not buying what you're selling.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um
And that's
with
very
your
true. Hmm.
mhm. And with your HBO series, um, how did that documentary influence your advocacy and your writing? Because that was a great opportunity, I'm sure, to be able to get it out to those of us who need the information.
Well, I can't. They the documentaries, or
Mhm,
it was actually a couple at the time.
mhm.
Their son was dyslexic, and he was, I think, in, I don't know, high school, college, or something. Like, they're not doing documentaries anymore, but basically they came to me as a college student and
Oh
asked
wow.
me to be a part of this documentary, and they just happened to be in the same area where I was going to college. So that's how I was, blessed to be a part of that
Mhm,
project.
mhm,
But it just kind of launched a lot of the speaking that came out of it. I had no clue this is what I was going to end up doing.
wow.
And after the documentary was released, it was a couple of us just end up speaking
Mhm,
about it after the documentary was released. And like I say, I actually end up just using it as a tool to go
mhm,
into the underserved communities where I came from, because
mhm,
I know a lot of parents and a lot of families didn't know what was
mhm,
going on, just like my mother didn't know.
mhm, mhm. Um, wow, I'd like to is the documentary still available on HBO, or was
I
it
don't know if it's still available on HBO, but it's still available. It's still out
oh,
there. Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
so we can get that information to the viewers who
Hmm.
may want
Hmm.
to watch it because it probably will
And
help.
it's called Journey into Dyslexia. That's the name of the documentary.
Oh, okay. All right. So
It's
that's
actually
easy
called
enough.
Journey into Dyslexia. Mhm.
Are you working on a follow-up to Journey of Hope?
Um, I'm actually working on probably not maybe a follow up. Someone said that I should do a kind of a journal to go along with that, but I'm thinking about that. Not sure, but Flip the Script is there, and that's actually a journal
Oh,
to help with the kind of how the negative thoughts that we sometimes have, and we internalize those things, to really to flip those things into more positive things that we could really, kind of internalize and change that negative narrative that we sometimes have about ourselves. That's what Flip the Script is about.
mhm,
But the next thing I'm actually working on is possibly a book for churches, actually Bible institutes, where they actually teach people that go to their local church or something like that. They're teachers, but they may not have been trained teachers in the public systems, or trained
mhm,
teachers in general. But they're taught in the Word. But a lot of students come in there and they just passionate about learning the Word of God, but they have a learning difference. And I say, if I received accommodations in a secular school or at a college, why can't I receive accommodations at a church? Because the
amen.
lack of knowledge, they don't
Mhm,
know.
mhm,
They don't know.
mhm.
So it's going to be like a manual for Bible school teachers, called God Wants All of His Children to Learn. So,
Okay.
and it's just really kind of things about, when a student comes into your classroom with a learning challenge, these are some tools that you might want to use, having them, encourage them to sit up front, maybe making sure they have a time enough. If they need extended time, it may not be given there, but try to incorporate something like that for that individual outside of the classroom, so they don't
Mhm,
feel as so that anxiety. Don't do
mhm.
that pop reading. Don't just say, okay,
Yeah.
you read. That
Mhm,
cause anxiety, and
mhm.
you will not see that student again. I actually did a couple of workshops at churches where students came up to me, or individuals came up to me, and they said they dropped out of the Bible Institutes because of that, because they know they possibly had a learning challenge and they felt like they weren't able to do what they could do there, so they dropped out. So these,
Wow.
I'm like, it's not just one. These things exist for individuals that we probably don't even think about.
Mm, mm. So, what lasting change do you wish for That's exciting though, that you've gone and taken it. I just got back up off my questions for a minute. And what you just talked about, what is going on in the secular world is not going on. And I mean, the secular world is just at baby steps. So
Yeah.
I'm sure the biblical world is probably like, say what now? You want me to do you want me to do what when I'm teaching my sermon? You want me to hold on?
Well,
Yeah.
it's probably just not in their sermon. It's like when they go to what they call
You,
Bible
Bible,
schools or
yeah, Bible
or
school,
like
Bible study. I
like a
mean, they used to,
exactly a Sunday
right.
school class or something. Because I mean, I experienced this myself in a Sunday school class. I was there, and we have our little Sunday school book, and they called on people, and that they called on me. I had a coughing fit, and I went to the bathroom. This in the church. I left
I probably would have
because
left and not
it was
came back. I'm home. I'm gonna watch it on TV. Bedside Baptist, here I come.
because of the
Yeah.
pop reading. Like I wasn't prepared to read.
Yeah, I'm not
So
doing that. Yeah.
that was that anxiety piece for me.
Mhm.
So
And like you said, they don't even know. Like
no,
if you ask for a volunteer, that's one thing. But when you
right.
call on someone,
Exactly.
that's a
Exactly.
whole nother thing. Now that I've had to be in the classroom and realize
Mhm.
everybody don't want to read out loud.
No, or they can't.
Correct.
Mhm. They might
So
want to and they would love to, but they can't. Some of my colleagues who are dyslexic adults, and then they actually have learned how to read. This one guy, he's an ex NFL player, he's a friend of mine, and
wow.
he is now NFL did not. He had to drop out because of the plays. He couldn't read the plays, so he had to end up dropping out of the NFL, and that got
Wow.
really hard for him. But his biggest excitement now that he actually got he learned through one of the Orton Gillingham reading methods. He was able to read to his daughter, and he was so excited about that. He said that was
Mm,
better than him making the NFL because he was
wow.
actually able to read to his daughter. And now
Wow.
he's out doing all kinds of talks to young people and about dyslexia, and just that's his mission now.
Wow. I can't imagine you playing pro football and you like, I just can't do this.
Oh,
But
he had
but
to
but
drop
he was
out.
called to do something else that
Yeah.
is just as important as what
Yes.
he was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
it
Yep.
just, yeah. Um so on a takeaway, what one reflective exercise or question from your book would you want our audience to pause on today?
Good question. Out of either one.
Yes, either
um,
one. Mhm.
okay. Okay. Um, it was a lot of good quotes in Flip the Script. Um, can't think of just one, but
Because the whole
really the
book was so
narrative.
good, right?
Well, just flipping that negative narrative of how you think about yourself to really self-reflect on your strengths and your abilities and the gifts that you bring to society.
Wow.
Yes, the difference is there, the difficulty is there, and we struggle with that on a daily basis. But try to really not let that overtake your life. Because I say dyslexia is what we have. It does not identify who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
identify your character. It doesn't identify your ability, your true abilities. It's not your deficiency, meaning that you are deficient,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not. You're not lacking anything in who
Mm-hmm.
you were created to be.
Mm-hmm. Um, I like that. Yeah. Definitely flip the script for yourself and not letting the situation define you.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and that you can get through it. Because I mean, you're a poster child, walking billboard of what resources and education, and I'm talking about educating yourself about. I
Yeah,
know that there's something else for me, not just the educational system, but
exactly.
yeah, processing it and internalizing that experience and growth for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, wow, this has been very insightful, a little emotional, and I'm just I can't imagine for the person who has dyslexia. I mean,
Yeah.
I would feel so empowered today to be able to talk with you,
Mhm,
to say,
mhm.
oh wow, a child listening that comes into the room with their parent to bring them to you to as a resource to find ways to know that you can learn too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
that's the big key. Really honing in, like
yeah,
being dyslexic is not saying that you cannot learn.
right.
You're going to learn things in a different way, and
Yes.
you have to process it in a different way. And that's okay. That
Mhm.
is okay.
Yeah. You have it in your book that uh begin to see dyslexia as a source of strength and not
Mhm,
as a weakness or a deficiency. And I like the
mhm.
difference. And it's a difference. It's not a negative, it's just a difference.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
you when we were talking, if you have high blood pressure, you take high blood pressure medicine. If you have
Mhm,
mental health, you take medication for mental health. If you have
mhm.
dyslexia, this is what you can do too. You have your
Yes,
own
exactly.
set of rules that you live by to get through your
Mhm.
day to day. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to the day when, like you employers, I'm thinking about that when you were talking. I was like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
going to work
Some
every day and these people don't understand what your needs really are.
I work in an institution of higher education, and they don't understand.
Wow.
And you think that would be a place that would be more accommodating, that you work in an institution where, again, education is what you're supposed to be
It,
mastering.
it's key.
Not in my, not yeah, not in my teaching area. I love my teach, but I'm an enrollment counselor at another college, and
Mhm.
it's challenging. It's
Wow.
challenging. Writing emails is challenging. I used to get hit with mistakes all the time in my spelling. Yeah, yeah.
That
It's
part.
not the most. It's not the most friendliest place. And someone asked me when in an interview that I did one Sunday, it's like you went right back in the belly of the beast, kind of, at
Yes.
the educational system. you know, the same place, where
Yeah.
I was kind of demonized. I went
Hmm.
right back into that system, and that's where I began to work. And I never thought that I would be working in higher education or education
They
period
need you.
because
They
of the
need,
challenges.
and the individuals coming into school need you. So you are definitely right where you need to be, as they say, because
Yeah,
so you'll be able to touch so many people's lives
yeah.
who
Hmm.
are coming in to change their future through education.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So keep on being the voice, Dr. Rockmore. I mean, I know you've enlightened me tonight, so I'm sure I'm not the only one who will watch this episode and be like, "Wow, I didn't know all of that." And then they can join you on your Zooms. That's
Hmm. Oh yeah.
exciting. That's
Absolutely.
empowering because I can now plug in and just listen, watch, learn, and connect.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have to jump on
Absolutely.
one of those on the fourth
Yeah.
Monday.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
every fourth Monday of the month, and it's open. You just go get the link, go to IDA,
Mm-hmm.
register. They send you the link, and we're there just to sit and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
And,
if you have some
and what time
challenges
does it
that you can,
start?
we start at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Hmm. And is it an hour, 2 hours? How long is the?
About an we normally about an hour.
Okay.
Sometimes we go
Okay.
over a little bit, depending on how the conversation
Hmm.
goes. Sometimes we have guests if we can, because we can't.
Hmm.
It's all free. So sometimes
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
the person is willing to give their time, we have a guest come and
Oh wow,
kind of talk.
nice.
Most of the time, they're dyslexic adults themselves, and they're sharing their story or sharing some things that they're doing in this community. But most sometimes it's just conversations. Just it's a safe place for adults to come to kind of talk about
Hmm.
what's going on in their world and the challenges they had. Unfortunately, one young lady who joined often, she had a friend who was dyslexic, and unfortunately, ag- this man took his own life because
Oh.
of the compound challenges that he had. Not just
Hmm.
the dyslexia on top of trying to be a father, trying to be a provider, and
Oh.
what he could not provide, it just
Hmm.
took over. Like I said, it does not just affect you academically, it
Hmm.
affects your whole life.
Your whole life. So
And
you need a lot
that
of coping.
social emotional piece is big. It's a big
Hmm.
one. I talk a lot about this social emotional piece in the dyslexic workshops that I do. That
Hmm.
social emotional piece is so big because again, you feel all that compound stress and worries and just trying to deal with life on top of dealing with your dyslexia.
Wow. Wow. Is there a certain type of, does the IDA have a resource for me to go and use to find counselors in my area who, if I need talk therapy or any
Not
of that?
really. Again, they have a list possibly of tutors dealing
Oh,
with
tutors.
just
Okay.
like more so tutors that are trained
Hmm. Hmm.
um, in Borton Gillingham.
Hmm.
But that a social emotional piece. If your local
Wow.
branch has connections to other resources, that's great.
Hmm.
But that might not be always the case. But if you go to any of the one great resource is called understood.org. Understood.org is a great platform to find a lot of information dealing with dyslexia, ADHD, all types of, and they sometimes have other information about social emotional pieces of learning differences, but it's called understood.org, and that's a great resource there. But there's if you go on just type in dyslexia on a lot of our social media platforms, you'll find a lot of good information or resources that you may be able to connect with as well.
Hmm.
And my page is Vessels of Hope. I try to post just a lot of information about dyslexia and learning differences on Vessels of Hope as often as I can.
Well, all I can say is this has enlightened me. And I thank you so very much for sharing your time, your story, your nonprofit, your Instagram, your Facebook, your journey, everything that you have shared with us this evening. It just makes me think about what your um, nonprofit is called. It makes me think about hope, hope for the future, hope for the individuals who are living with dyslexia, the adults, the kids, the educational system that needs to incorporate the processes that help those individuals to be successful, the workforces that need to make sure their HR people have training so that they
Absolutely,
can be a positive force for individuals with dyslexia, because it doesn't sound like they don't want to work. They want to work hard, but just understand I
absolutely,
just work differently.
exactly,
It's a
exactly.
difference. So, any
Mhm.
final words, Dr. Rockmore?
Just thank you for just allowing me to share this information with the audience. And I pray that it was a blessing and encouraging to someone. And even if you as an individual may not be dealing with this, but you may know someone that have or exhibit these challenges, share this information with them, please, because it's just we have to keep throwing that life raft out
Mhm,
because we don't want to see our loved ones sink through life and
mhm,
knowing that there's information out there that can help them.
mhm. Because they now have vessels of hope to help them as a resource. So, I look forward to much continued success for you and the
Thank
people
you.
whose lives you touch.
Thank you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
It's the Hair Kitchen, baby, and you know what it means. G. Marie gon' come around. She gon' really lay it down. She gon' tell y'all all about all the things she knows about beauty in this industry. Everything you need to see. Hair color and history. Business opportunities. So you better listen up real good. The Hair Kitchen is in your hood. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's start the show.